I never pictured myself 62, headlights carving through streets I didn't recognize. Clutching the wheel at 11 at night, while my heart hammered like it was trying to punch through my ribs. 3 hours earlier I'd driven past the glass tower where Elijah Vance had spent a quarter-century of his life. The place looked abandoned. Lobby lights dead. Garage empty. A paper sign on the front door, polite official, declared the offices, closed for renovation starting 600 p.m. For a beat I told myself I'd misread the address. But there it was, the company's elegant logo shining from a dark facade like a smirk. My fingers shook as I called him. "How's the project going, love?" I managed, aiming for casual 40 years of loyal wife in 4 careful words. His reply was smooth, polished, the script of a man who'd rehearsed. Swamped. Simone. Tokyo deliverable is brutal. Can't talk. Don't wait up. And under his breath, no, behind him. I heard it, a quick breathy moan, a soft laugh, the private music I once believed belonged only to us. My stomach turned over, but a different part of me, dormant for years, snapped awake, cold and sharp. I opened the family GPS app, the one I'd insisted on after Elijah's fender bender last spring. The little blue dot that was his silver S-Class blinked in a neighborhood 40 minutes from home, an affluent pocket of Atlanta he and I had never visited together. Each mile I drove felt like peeling skin from something raw. The area was almost storybook craftsman porches, lawns cut with ruler lines, antique street lamps laying gold on the sidewalks. A place engineered for perfect lives. Elijah's Mercedes rested in front of a deep cobalt blue 2-story with hydrangeas swaying on the porch and a wooden swing that moved as if it remembered laughter. A single upstairs light glowed behind lace curtains. Shadows passed like whispered secrets. I parked 3 houses down and watched. It wasn't a colleague's condo. It wasn't a business hotel where men vanish into anonymity. It was a home, mailbox painted with sunflowers, a welcome mat that said, "The Stanton Family." Then I saw her, not a girl as I'd braced for, but a woman in her mid-40s. Hair piled into a casual bun, a blue silk robe cinched at the waist. The twin of the robe Elijah gave me last anniversary, only mine was wine red. She peered through the upstairs glass with a soft, satisfied look that hurt worse than any embrace could have. My phone buzzed. A text from Elijah leaving the office now, love. Don't wait up. Grab dinner without me. The audacity almost made me laugh. Almost. A moment later, a boy stepped into the window's frame, about 10, dark wavy hair, that curious angle of the head so eerily like Elijah's it knocked the air from me. The woman hugged him. They disappeared from sight, bedtime rituals unfolding in the house where my husband, lived a second life. 40 years of marriage, 2 adult children, 3 grandbabies. What had we built it all on? Trust, or a stage set nailed together with half-truths. A physical ache took hold, the kind that makes you wonder if your heart is actually tearing. I must have cried myself empty. When I startled awake, cramped in the driver's seat at 5:47 a.m., the blue house hadn't dissolved. Elijah's car was gone. On autopilot I drove home, body steering through familiar turns learned over decades. I arrived just as Elijah stepped through our door, briefcase in one hand, a box of Boston creams in the other, my favorite. "Morning, my love," he said, kissing my cheek, the picture of ease. "Nighter. International timelines." He lifted the box. "Thought you'd like these." If I hadn't seen what I'd seen, I would have believed him. How many times had he smuggled lies into our kitchen under bakery ribbon? "How thoughtful," I said. Amazed my voice still worked. "Why don't you shower while I make coffee?" He whistled the same little tune he always whistled when he was happy. The tune that now sounded like a confession. As the water started upstairs, page 2 while the shower roared, I opened his briefcase with hands that pretended not to shake. Contracts. A tablet. Pens stamped with the company logo, everything ordinary. And then something not ordinary, a second phone, tucked into a hidden sleeve I hadn't known the case had. The lock screen lit with missed calls labeled home and a text, "Daddy, don't forget my soccer game Saturday. Mummy says you promised. Love you, Jalen." Another mommy, another child, Elijah's child. The camera lens of my life pulled wide, new details snapping into focus with cruel clarity. 3-day, business trips, weekend, work emergencies. Calls answered in the yard, credit card charges that never crossed our threshold. I pressed the pieces together and felt the suffocating weight of years. Not because I was foolish. No, I had been a wife who chose to trust. I had looked away because the alternative was unthinkable. The water shut off. I slid everything back exactly as I'd found it. Now an apprentice in the craft that had been used against me. By the time Elijah came downstairs, hair damp, skin warm with the cologne I buy him every Christmas, the coffee steamed and donuts waited on a plate. "Sleep well?" he asked, biting into chocolate as he scrolled the news. "Like a rock," I lied, surprised at how easily the falsehood crossed my lips. "You caught a couple hours on the conference room sofa," he said. Daryl was snoring like a bear next door. Daryl. The same Daryl whose retirement party we'd toasted 6 months ago. Elijah had raised his glass and delivered an ode to loyalty that moved half the room to tears. I tasted bile. He looked up, frowning. "You okay, Simone? You're pale." "I'm fine," I said. And for 3 days I played the part I'd perfected for 4 decades. Smiles placed carefully, questions smoothed over, even intimacy my mind 1,000 miles away. He noticed nothing. Why would he? I had been predictable for a lifetime. On the 4th afternoon I dressed like a stranger. Jeans, hoodie bought with cash, oversized sunglasses, hair hidden beneath a baseball cap. The old Simone had died in a parked car 3 nights ago. Whoever slid behind the wheel now was someone new. At 2 o'clock I returned to the cobalt blue house. I'd already called Elijah's direct line at the office and made sure he was actually there. The street was quiet, the kind of weekday hush punctured only by a lawn crew and a faraway dog. She emerged at 20:30. Candace, as I would later learn, carrying a baby in a front sling, 6 months old at most. Betrayal's math got uglier by the second. I followed at a distance as she walked to a cozy cafe draped in hanging plants. I ordered a coffee I didn't want and watched as she settled with 2 other women, all of them cradling infants. The chatter was soft and ordinary. Diapers, sleep. "Your lucky Marcus is so hands-on," one friend said. Not many husbands like that. A Marcus. Elijah wore a different name here, the way he wore a different tie. Candace's smile reached her eyes. "Work makes it tricky. Sometimes he's gone 3 or 4 days, but he always makes it up to us. He's an amazing dad. 3 or 4 days, the precise length of his Tokyo crunches. How's Jalen adjusting?" Another asked. "Jailous at first," Candace said, adjusting the baby. But Marcus bought him a new baseball glove. Saturdays are their time. Saturday seminars. Another puzzle piece snapped into place. I stood to leave, but Candace lifted her phone to share photos and my eyes betrayed me. There was Elijah, my Elijah, on a sun-washed beach, tan and grinning, the boy on his shoulders, Candace pregnant and laughing beside them. Turks and Caicos. The same weekend Elijah had sworn he was at a corporate retreat. I stumbled into daylight that felt suddenly false. On the walk back I passed a park where kids chased a ball across grass. A voice, familiar enough to stop time, carried on the breeze. "That's it, champ. Drive through the kick." Elijah. On a weekday afternoon he was supposed to be charming Japanese investors. He was coaching youth soccer. Jalen sprinted to him, a carbon copy in miniature, and Elijah scooped him up, joy carving bright lines across his face. For 20 minutes I watched from a distance as the man I'd slept beside for 40 years became someone else. Animated, present, alive. None of it looked like acting. It was real, the easy tenderness of a father in his element. So who, exactly, was my husband? The man who ate toast at my table each morning, or the one tying cleats under a maple on Wednesday afternoons? Did the real Elijah exist at all, or were we each living with a version he'd curated for us? My phone rang. "Hey love, meeting wrapped early. Want me to pick up dinner?" I looked at him across the park. "Still laughing with the boys," I said, voice steady. "Grab that Napa Cabernet we like." "You got it." "I love you, Simone." "I love you, too," I answered, the words tasting like ash. That night his breathing was soft and even beside me. I slipped into the bathroom and met my own eyes in the mirror. 62. 40 of those years tethered to a man who had built a double life with a watchmaker's patience. Tears came silent, then in waves. I didn't cry only for the betrayal. I wept for the girl I'd shelved. the artist who'd turned down Paris because Elijah had convinced me there would always be time for art. But not for babies. I never regretted our children. Amara and Jamal are the truest joy I know. But somewhere along the way, Simone the painter dissolved, and only Simone the wife remained. The next morning, while Elijah played whichever role his calendar required, I climbed to the attic and opened boxes I hadn't touched in decades. Brushes curled stiff in their sleep. Dried paints, yellowed sketchbooks. Ghosts of a life that could have been. I also found mementos from the life we'd built. Our wedding photo, his vows ringing with promises of faithfulness. Amara's wrinkled birth certificate. Jamal's first tottering steps captured on a camcorder Elijah used to cradle like a treasure. Were those memories lies? No, they were true moments. But truth and lie had been braided together so long I couldn't tell which strand had cut me. My phone flashed Amara. "Mom, are you okay?" "I'm fine, baby. Just tired. I can come by. The kids want grandma." The kids, my grandchildren, Elijah's official grandchildren. Did they unknowingly share blood with a boy they would never meet? The poison web had threads everywhere. "Sunday's better," I said. "Your father will be home." A lie. Sundays had become his golf with clients, which I now suspected took place near a cobalt blue porch swing. I spread bank statements across the kitchen table, purchases from stores I never visited, transfers to accounts I didn't recognize, tuition to a private academy, music lessons, summer camps. I could almost hear a violin practicing scales in a house that wasn't mine. Medical bills from Emory, where both of our children were born, now tied to a birth I hadn't known existed. By afternoon I did something I'd never done. I hired a private investigator. A quiet man recommended by a friend who'd crawled out of a brutal divorce. "I need the whole picture," I told him. "How long? How it started? Everything. People think they want everything," he said gently. "Are you sure?" "No. But living half-blind had already cost me too much." "Wes." Elijah came home with flowers that night. Calla lilies, my old favorite, or maybe just the favorite of the woman he believed I still was. "You look beautiful," he said over dinner, and for a second I couldn't tell whether the compliment came from habit or calculation. A week later, investigator Sterling placed a folder on our dining table, the same table where we'd cut birthday cakes and spread Christmas lentils. "Mrs. Vance," he said, voice professionally kind, "this won't be easy." The first page stopped my breath. A marriage certificate. Marcus Stanton and Candace Stanton, married 12 years ago. Not an affair. "But how? This is illegal," I stammered. "Technically, yes," Sterling said. "He built a clean alias. Documents, accounts, credit. Elijah Vance and Marcus Stanton are the same man, but on paper they're strangers. It's skilled work." Photographs follow at a beach ceremony. Elijah in a white linen suit I'd never seen. Birth certificates: Jolyn Stanton 11, Sky Stanton 6 months. Financials for a consulting firm, Marcus's firm, lining up perfectly with Elijah's overtime. Property records: the Blue House, a Miami condo, a Smoky Mountains cabin. All cash purchases. The money trail threaded straight through a legacy my mother had left me 15 years ago. Funds Elijah was meant to steward for our retirement. How does someone live like this for so long? I whispered. Sterling's sigh carried the weight of tired knowledge. Because it works. Because people trust. Because he's clever. There was more. Candace, it turned out, believed she'd married a widower. In the version of the story she'd been told, Simone, the first wife, had died in a car accident 15 years ago. In Elijah's universe, I wasn't just erased. I was buried. Why? I asked. Sterling slid over notes from interviews. He met Candace during physical therapy after knee surgery, right around the time your mother got sick. She became pregnant. He chose both. Your husband moves nearly $3 million across his identities. I barely made it to the bathroom before my body revolted. When the shaking passed, Sterling was still there, steady, waiting. "What do you want to do?" he asked. "Everything," I said. "I want everything he's built. Names, accounts, investments, every cent." He held my gaze. "Are you considering divorce?" "I'm considering justice." For the next 3 days I existed in quiet fury. My house became a stage where I rehearsed normalcy, pouring coffee, folding laundries, smiling when spoken to. While inside I built a storm. At night, I mapped timelines on paper, every business trip, every unexplained withdrawal, every lie disguised as duty. The puzzle of Elijah's secret life began to fit together with chilling precision. When I finally called Jamal, my son, my voice was steady. I need your professional help with something delicate. Can you meet me at the Marriott Marquis, room 5012? He arrived within an hour, concern etched across his face. Mum, what's going on? Why are you in a hotel? I slid Sterling's folder across the table. Jamal opened it, scanning quickly, his expression darkening as he turned each page. Marriage certificate, photos, financial records. By the time he reached the last document, his jaw was locked. I'm going to destroy him, he said quietly, each word measured like a verdict. Bigamy, fraud, identity theft. He's looking at years. I don't want him in prison, I replied. Not yet. I want something worse. I want him to lose everything he treasures but still have to live to see it. Jamal looked at me for a long moment, then nodded slowly. Then we'll do it your way. We talked for hours, outlining a plan precise as surgery. We'll need Amara too, Jamal said. Her PR experience will be invaluable when this hits the press. When I told Amara, she broke. My strong, confident daughter sobbed into my arms like a child. How could he, Mom? How could he do this to you, to us? He did it to himself, I whispered. Now, we'll make sure the world knows. Amara wiped her eyes, fire replacing tears. Then we control the narrative. When this explodes, and it will, we make sure there's no doubt who the villain is. Page 5. My next call was to Patricia, Elijah's sister. We had always been cordial, sometimes even close. She listened without interrupting as I laid bare the deception her brother had spun for 12 years. After a long silence, she sighed. I knew something wasn't right. The excuses, the mixed-up details. I thought maybe an affair, but this? I never imagined. I need your help, I said. Access to your mother's safe deposit box. Elijah keeps critical documents there. Wills, contracts. You're the executor. Patricia hesitated. Then her voice softened. Mother always said you were too good for him. I'll get you what you need. Over the next weeks, the plan solidified. I hired a second investigator, a forensic accountant who specialized in financial crimes. He uncovered a complex network of shell companies, false invoices, and offshore accounts. Elijah's so-called consulting firm, under his alias Marcus Stanton, had won multiple government contracts using insider data stolen from his own company as Elijah Vance. It was more than betrayal. It was systemic fraud. Jamal began drafting airtight legal documents to freeze assets at the right moment. Amara prepared discreet leaks, anonymous social posts, whispers of a high-profile businessman living a double life. Patricia found the jackpot, the original will of Elijah's father, leaving everything in a trust for the grandchildren managed by me. Elijah had forged a fake version years ago to claim the inheritance for himself. I felt no guilt, no hesitation, only clarity. During those 6 weeks I played the role of my life, the devoted wife, reborn. I cooked Elijah's favorite meals, laughed at his jokes, stayed awake for his late returns. I kissed him like I used to, watched him sleep, memorizing the face of the man who had orchestrated 2 worlds with surgical precision. He never suspected a thing. One evening over candlelight, he spoke dreamily about the future. I've been thinking, Simone. Maybe in a few years we could retire, travel. I smiled sweetly, pouring more wine. That sounds lovely. Where fertile? Greece. I know how much you love art, he said, eyes gleaming with false affection. The art I gave up for you. I thought, but aloud I said, perfect. Inside I counted the days. By the 6th week, everything was in motion. Jamal had aligned the legal trap. Amara had primed the press. Patricia had confirmed the forged documents were already in the hands of authorities. The final act would be public, poetic, and unforgettable. Elijah had planned our 40th wedding anniversary down to the last flower. He wanted a grand celebration, a performance of devotion before friends and family, a fitting stage for his ruin. And I, Simone Vance, would give him exactly that. The gilded lyre glimmered under soft city light, its gold-lettered name ironic enough to make me smile. Elijah had reserved the entire main hall. A gesture of love, he said. A gesture of ego, I thought. The chandeliers sparkled above Egyptian linen tables dressed in white orchids and red roses. The colors of my wedding bouquet. A quartet played Our Love Is Here to Stay, the song from our first dance. 40 years earlier I'd believed the lyrics. Tonight they were an elegy. I wore a deep crimson gown, bold and deliberate. Its neckline dared whispers, its color whispered blood and rebirth. My hair swept into an elegant knot, my mother's diamond necklace resting above my collarbone like a promise finally kept. Every stroke of makeup was war paint disguised as glamour. Elijah looked radiant in his navy Italian suit, the gold cufflinks gleaming, his father's inheritance stolen through forgery. His smile was effortless, confident. He had no idea. "You're absolutely breathtaking," he whispered, helping me with my chair. His hand brushed my shoulder, a practiced public caress. "I can't believe you still take my breath away." "And you?" I replied smoothly, never ceased to surprise me. He smiled, pleased with himself, unaware of the dagger hiding behind my words. The guest list was curated with precision: his partners who'd lose millions, the friends who'd gossip endlessly, and the family who deserved to witness the truth. Each person was a piece of the trap, positioned carefully, like chess. Dinner began with oysters, his supposed sacrifice for me since he despised them. Champagne flowed, laughter danced around the room, and Elijah played the perfect host. Brenda Jenkins, his business partner's wife, leaned toward me. "Elijah's always been the ideal husband, Simone. You're so lucky." I smiled. "You have no idea." At 9:30 p.m., as the chocolate soufflés arrived, Elijah stood and tapped his glass. The quartet fell silent, all eyes turned to him. The man everyone admired, the man who had built his empire on lies. "Family, friends," he began, voice warm and rich, every note practiced. 40 years ago, in a little bookstore downtown, I met a woman who changed my life. Simone has been my anchor, my confidant, my best friend. Through every storm, she has been the light guiding me home. A murmur rippled through the guests, sighs, smiles, soft applause. I almost marveled at his performance. Almost. He reached into his pocket and produced a blue velvet box. "Tonight, I want to renew my vows. To promise her another 40 years. He opened it. The diamond eternity band glittered under the chandeliers. "Simone, will you continue this journey with me?" Applause thundered. Phones rose for photos. It was perfect. The timing couldn't have been better. I rose to my feet, letting him slip the ring onto my finger. I kissed him. A show for the cameras. Then turned to the audience, my smile unwavering. 40 years, I said, my voice calm, almost tender. That's a long time to share a life. Long enough to know every truth, or so one might think. Elijah's expression froze. The faintest flicker of unease crossing his features. "I've prepared something special," I continued, retrieving my phone from my purse. A surprise, really, because after 40 years, there should be no secrets between husband and wife. I nodded subtly toward Jamal. He was already connected to the restaurant sound system. A beat later, Elijah's own voice filled the room. "Candace, my love, I'm heading home now. Don't worry about Jalen's game. I told Simone I'm at a conference all weekend. Trust me, it's almost pathetic how easy it is." The silence was instant, heavy, violent. Glasses froze midair. Forks stilled. Elijah's champagne flute slipped from his hand, shattering on marble. That's not," he stammered. "Oh, but it is," I said, turning toward the massive projection screen as images began to fade in. The first photo, Elijah and Candace at their beach wedding, him in linen, her barefoot in white. Then came the birth certificate. Jalen Stanton, father Marcus Stanton. Then more family portraits at Christmas, Elijah carrying the boy on his shoulders, ultrasound photos labeled, "For the best dad in the world, love, Candace." Gasps spread through the room like wildfire. Brenda Jenkins covered her mouth. Devin Harris, his longtime partner, looked gutted. The kind of silence that comes when respect shatters. Patricia buried her face in her hands, tears slipping through her fingers. I circled Elijah slowly, my heels clicking like a metronome of judgment. 40 years living beside a bigamist. A liar. Elijah, please. I continued. For the guests who might not know, bigamy is a felony. Fraud, tax evasion, document forgery. All federal crimes. Simone, Stop, he whispered, desperate. We can talk. Jamal stood, stepping between us. Don't move toward my mother, he said coldly. The IRS already has your Cayman accounts. The prosecutors have your fake contracts. Every secret is gone. Elijah's eyes darted from face to face, searching for an ally. Devin, you know me. I thought I did. Devin interrupted, disgust dripping from every word. Apparently, none of us did. And Amara rose next, taking the microphone the quartet had abandoned. To all of you, she said, voice shaking but clear, I'm sorry you had to see this. But after 40 years of deception, my mother deserves her truth in public. The man you admire is a fraud. The room erupted. Whispers, gasps, phones recording every second. Elijah sank into his chair, color draining from his face. I approached him one final time, holding a thick envelope. Divorce papers, prepared weeks ago. You have two choices, I said quietly, so only the nearest tables could hear. Sign these now, relinquishing every asset you stole, or face trial for everything you've done. Patricia stood too. Elijah, I found Dad's real will. The one you forged. It's already with the authorities. His hand shook as he took the pen. When he signed, tears splattered across the page, smearing his own name. The last act of a man undone by his own lies. The night after the anniversary was sleepless. I sat alone on the balcony of my hotel suite, the city flickering below like 1,000 tiny witnesses. The red dress still clung to me, torn silk and pride. My makeup had streaked into battle scars. Every blink replayed the moment Elijah's mask cracked in front of everyone he had ever fooled. At 6:00 a.m., Jamal arrived with coffee and a laptop, his composure razor sharp. It's done, he said. Dad signed the divorce papers. The assets are frozen. The courts have verified the filings. I nodded. My voice was gone, but my resolve wasn't. By 7:00, Amara stormed in with her crisis PR team, 3 women in black suits, tablets already glowing with headlines. The embargo lifts in 2 hours, she said briskly. We have exclusives lined up. Atlanta Journal, USA Today, 2 national morning shows. The hashtag #DoubleIfVance is already trending. Her professionalism masked heartbreak. My daughter, the strategist, turning our pain into precision. At exactly 9:00 a.m., it began. Screens across America blazed with the same breaking line. Prominent businessman Elijah Vance exposed for living double life, bigamy, fraud, and 12 years of deception. Photos of Elijah with both families looped endlessly. The world devoured the story. Social media turned it into wildfire. Memes outraged disbelief. Within hours, he went from pillar of success to global cautionary tale. At 11:00, his company released a statement effective immediately. Elijah Vance has been suspended pending investigation for serious ethical violations. Devin Harris, his former partner, was blunt in his interview. If the reports are true, Elijah not only betrayed his family, but the trust of his partners, employees, and clients. He's finished. By noon, his empire was ash. That afternoon, the phone rang. The front desk. Mrs. Vance. Reporters are in the lobby requesting a statement. I smiled faintly. Tell them my lawyer will hold a press conference at 2. At 30:47. Another call. This one from an unknown number. I answered. A woman's voice trembled through the line. Is it true? Who is this? I asked, though I already knew. This is Candace, she said, her voice cracked and thin. You're Simone Vance. Yes, I said quietly. His first and only legal wife. I'm sorry, Candace. You were lied to. You're not his widow. I never died. He killed me on paper so he could have you. A sob broke through the receiver. My God. The children, what do I tell them? Jalen adores him. The baby. Tell them their father made mistakes, I said. Tell them they are innocent. That love doesn't have to die with lies. I have nothing, she whispered. The house is in his name. The accounts. I quit my job because he wanted me home. I can't even buy diapers without him. I closed my eyes. Give me your details. My lawyer will contact you. You and the children will be taken care of. Why? She asked, broken. After everything he did, why help me? Because destroying Elijah doesn't mean destroying 2 children, I said softly. They didn't choose this life. When the call ended, I felt something I hadn't expected. Peace. Not forgiveness, not pity, just peace. The next morning, the IRS came like Judgment Day. Black SUVs, suits, agents walking through both houses with boxes and evidence bags, computers, documents. Even Elijah's prized watch collection, tagged and cataloged. He had hidden money offshore, Cayman accounts, shell companies, fake business filings. Jamal oversaw the legal side, calm and lethal. He's trapped, Mom. He told me. No leverage left. Every lie is accounted for. Within a week, Elijah's life was rubble. The bigamy laws automatically voided his financial rights to all marital property. Our house, now mine alone, was sealed off from him. The stock portfolio, investments, and retirement accounts were frozen under my name. Mom, Jamal said one morning, handing me a folder. We recovered $3.7 million from his Cayman fund. The rest is tied up in international claims, but we'll get more eventually. I didn't smile. There was no victory in numbers, only a strange quiet. Patricia came to see me a few days later. Her face was pale, her shoulders bent with family shame. Mother always knew, she said softly. Before she died, she told me, take care of Simone when the truth comes out. I think she sensed it. How is he? I asked. Patricia sighed. Broken. Candace threw him out. He tried staying in hotels, but no one will rent to him. The news made him radioactive. He's living out of an extended stay motel near the highway. Paying cash. Avoiding cameras, he's hollow. I nodded slowly. A fitting symmetry, I murmured. Hay once lived 2 lives. Now he has none. 3 weeks later, I testified before the grand jury. The courtroom was full lawyers, journalists, strangers. I wore a simple black suit, no jewelry except my old wedding ring, the one I now wore not out of love but remembrance of who I once was. For 4 hours I spoke about the marriage, the lies, the discovery. The jurors' faces shifted from sympathy to outrage. The prosecutor asked, Mrs. Vance, when did you first suspect your husband's double life? There were moments, I said. But denial is a powerful anesthetic. I believed because it was easier than seeing. What made you finally confront the truth? I paused. I said. Then clarity. Then the realization that 40 years of deception would not define the rest of my life. The grand jury's decision was unanimous. Formal indictment for bigamy, fraud, and forgery. Elijah Vance, once the city's golden man, was now its ghost.